Eric, if you could just tell us your background, where you went to school, where do you teach, how long you've been doing it.
Okay, I'm Eric Schatz. I grew up in Ferdinand. I went to Forest Park. Um, I graduated in 2000, and I went to Indiana State University for my undergrad in music education and my master's in double bass performance. And then I've been teaching in the Terre Haute area for 12 years. And that's been all at the middle school level. I started out as a band director and orchestra director and general music teacher at a small school. That school, I was there for 4 years. That school got closed down. And then I moved with my kids, consolidated into a much bigger school, about 3 times the size of my old school. And they split the band director position into 2 positions, band and orchestra. So I just took the orchestra side, and I've been there for 8 years. That's Otter Creek Middle School in Terre Haute.
Okay. So I have this list of questions.
Mm-hmm.
You may have hit one, I don't know. Um, okay, number one, what would you say had the most influence on choosing the career that you have today?
Well, it's that's not the easiest question, I guess, for me, because I've kind of wound my path through it. I started off um, teaching guitar lessons to out of my house, and quickly realized that that was a fun way to make $1. And then Mr. Bradley came along. That was you had been at Forest Park for a year or two, and I started realizing that maybe this might be a thing that I'd like to continue doing. Um, and honestly, that was kind of just a small thought about music education. The big thing was I just knew I wanted to be a musician, and so I was much more focused. Even when I went to college, I was much more focused on the performance and analytical side of music. Um, and really, it was mostly improvisation that really got me. As soon as I figured out that I didn't have to, that I could make up my own music as I went, man, that was it. I was hooked.
Yeah, that you were quite the theory student. That's I remember that.
Yeah, that was a very that you started that theory course my senior year, right there in the morning during your prep time. I didn't realize how odd that was until I started teaching and realizing that you were teaching a theory course during your prep. And I'm like, well, would I do that now? I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm not quite willing to give that up. But that was a very important course that set me on track for going to college and put me far ahead of the curve and really cemented what I wanted to do.
So let's digress then. Uh, so you went to college and you're more interested in playing. You're more interested in music theory. Uh, and I know the answer to this. What's your what do you do performance wise? Do you still play? Have you
Okay,
been
so
playing the whole time? What do you
yeah,
do?
so I started out in high school as a saxophonist, um, and then quickly realized by the time I was maybe a freshman in high school that I really liked the bass. I really liked the way I could see the theory on the bass. I wasn't a piano player yet, but I liked how I could see the theory on the bass and that it was easy for me to do those kind of things. And so by the time I got to college, I was a saxophone major because I was a much better reader. I'd never seen an upright bass before. I couldn't go to school for my undergrad for double bass, so I I quickly found a double bass at the university, and after a couple years, nobody really knew that I was a saxophone major, and and then into my master's, and then that's all I did was play. I didn't have a job in college. I was immediately playing with as many bands as I could, and I kind of made a name for myself as a pickup artist, where a country band would need a bass player for the night. Somebody got hurt, or somebody, somebody couldn't make the gig, and I would just step in with the band, or a rock band or jazz or whatever. And I don't do so much of that anymore. That's stressful. That's stressful stuff. But I still play at least, I work at least once a week at a jam session or at playing gigs. And honestly, anymore, I play just about as much piano. I really play more jazz piano than I used to. It's getting very comfortable.
Cool.
But I'm
I see the
mostly a
posts
jazz
on
player.
Facebook. So yeah,
Hmm.
you're not always with a bass guitar when you post a picture on Facebook.
Yeah, but I haven't played the saxophone in years and years and years and years.
So when you went to college, like all of us, you had to declare a major instrument. So saxophone was the path of least resistance, at least to get you in the door.
Yeah, because I could read on it. I
Yeah,
couldn't. My bass clef reading was not what it should be. I couldn't even hold a bow. I'd never held. You know what I mean? It
yeah,
was. I was afraid I was going to fail out.
gotcha.
So
So what was the hardest part of your undergrad work of college for you?
the hardest part of undergrad for me was it was honestly um, balancing the performing with the schoolwork. I was pretty much a performance major without the degree. I really pushed myself and told my professors what I was up to. And there's a couple of us that were doing that kind of thing. I didn't want to jump through all the hoops of being a performance major, but I wanted that level of, I guess, intensity.
Hmm.
You know, for a couple years there, I was doing juries on double bass and saxophone while trying to complete my music ed stuff, and I got pretty hairy there for a while.
Yeah,
That was probably, I had a hard time grabbing it all.
it's a little tough when you have multiple instruments. I know I had a couple of years where I was doing juries on 3 different instruments, make you freak out.
Yeah, it's stressful. Yeah,
Yeah,
but I got through it, and I'm I definitely wouldn't have done it any other way.
cool. Let's see, we hit this one. Um, was it difficult to find a job? And I think they mean a teaching job.
Yeah, um, yeah. So on the ed side, yeah, no, it was not. I was once I got to about my junior year, my third year of college, I started teaching the high school jazz programs after school. And so we have two major high schools in the city, and I would teach one before school. So I would get up early and they would have before school jazz band. And then after school jazz band, I would go to the other side of the city. And so I was already, all the band directors in town already knew who I was. And I was kind of getting myself in the scene, just like I was playing bass, trying to get myself
Right.
in the scene, trying to get my name out there. And then when the job opened up, um, I really didn't even have much of an interview.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it. I took the opposite path, and I stayed out of music in the summers and didn't know anybody,
Yeah.
and it made it tougher. Um, what is your favorite part of your job?
Uh, man, you know, everybody says, everybody's going to say, for the educators, it's the aha moment. It's the moment where you've been tooling on a kid, trying to get them from point A to point B, and they finally get it, and like, all right, we're ready to move on. That's totally true. That's a great moment. And one of the things that I don't think a lot of us talk about very much is the fact that, when I first started teaching, those were small steps and big moments. Like me just getting a kid to hold the clarinet right was
Mhm.
like, oh man, Johnny finally got it today. I can quit on him about that. And now those aha moments are much bigger leaps. You all of those things that were big, you know, the progression of it, being a teacher and being able to make bigger leaps with the students because I'm getting better at what I do, might be my favorite part of it.
So you're not stagnant.
Try not to be.
Yeah.
That's I'm teaching from home now.
Yeah. We'll move on from teaching from home.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Next question on here. Did growing up in a small town create problems for you? What do
Oh
you
my
think?
gosh, yeah, man. I was always a wayward soul and kind of a weird kid, and trying to be creative and certainly find my own way to do everything. And um, when I started realizing that improvisation, just on a music side, that improvisation was where it was at, I had a hard time finding instruction. So this was like the internet was not so helpful to me.
Right.
It was a lot of uncovering the puzzle pieces on my own. That theory class was massive for me in understanding chord scale relationships, um, and overarching like harmonic design and things like that. But if I would have just had a jazz teacher around, I would have that would have been very beneficial to me. I think you were helping me with things, what you could. We didn't have a jazz band. My senior year, we started up a jazz band.
Yeah.
So there wasn't the, coming from a small school and then getting into college and seeing my friends that came from Ben Davis and came from these bigger schools that had these big programs. I didn't really know what jazz was until I came to college. And I stepped into the college big band playing bass, and I'd never listened to a big band record before.
That's
You know,
amazing.
and it blew my mind. You know, uh, so, but there are also a lot of advantages. How it is with the small town. There's a lot of advantages to it too. But yeah, for somebody in my position, it was a little tough on me. But
Yeah, I can see that. Um, did your family support you in your desired career choice and as you wanted to move on?
there was a small amount of resistance in the beginning, but pretty quickly they realized that it's an honorable profession, and I'm headstrong about it anyway. So they've been pretty good supporters of me. Things have worked out pretty well.
Good deal. Um, did you ever consider other vocations?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was a while there at the end of college where um I was making really good money just playing. Um, I was playing 4 or 5 nights a week in Indianapolis and Chicago, and it it was I had no health insurance. January and February were super lean. I was making a boatload of money in November and December, and I had that degree, and I kind of decided that I should maybe go for something a little more stable.
Yeah.
And so there was that, and you know, um, you know me fairly well. I'm a kind of a diversified individual. I've been making furniture and blacksmithing and I have all kinds of hobbies that you know but I've never really, I guess, seriously looked away from music education since I've become a teacher.
Yeah.
Been all in.
So do you think, having your, well, like I have a side job, I would call your woodworking, blacksmithing, that'd be a side job because you make some money doing that.
Yeah. Oh
Uh,
yeah. Yeah. The hobby definitely pays for itself, and then does some more on the side there.
do
And
you think that helps you teaching at all
um
or keeps your brain fresh or?
yeah, yeah, it does. Hey, I am I've realized that I'm an odd duck, that I get my work done at school. I'm pretty darn efficient with my grading, with all the work I need to get done. And when I get home, I don't think about school. I go right on to what I need to do until I get there the next morning. And I keep all that compartmentalized, and it keeps me fresh when I'm there. And I think that's a real hard thing for a lot of teachers. They drag all their work home. They work at work, they work at home. They work on the weekends, you know, and obviously my wife's an English teacher, so there's no getting around it. That's life from grading papers, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, oh, I got this one in there twice. What has changed over the years for you, you know, teaching essentially middle school orchestra?
Yeah.
What has changed over the years, if anything?
Okay. So the answer for that has got to be technology. But you know, my corporation, up here in Vigo County, has been behind on it. They've been behind, and you know, the counties around us, my buddies that are teaching, I see them, you know, rolling out these programs and iPads and things like that, and we have been behind. The greatest, you know, technology things for me are me just being able to tell students, go home, you got a free metronome. That's like a free metronome. That's crazy. Oh, you just type it into Google, you get a metronome and a free tuner,
Yeah.
you know, and you've got these things to help you. You can even, you know, look on YouTube and find an example of what you're trying to play. You know, it's so technology is what has changed so much.
Yeah.
Other than that, you know, I'm teaching orchestra. They've been doing it the same way for the last 500 years, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh, I feel the same way about, you know, teaching mostly chorus. And then, so this whole, the COVID-19 thing has really kind of hung us up.
Yeah.
We can't teach our thing.
Yep.
So that's why we're talking about careers in music.
That works. It's good.
Okay, we got just a little bit more here. Let's see. Somebody asked about professional development. That's kind of a shocking question. Do you participate, or how do you participate in professional development?
That had to have been an administrator, right?
No, these came from students.
Future administrator, maybe. So how do I participate in professional development? Okay, so here's the real trick. Here's the real deal truth. For music teachers, professional development comes from so many different angles, so many different things. You know, the math teachers, they got a hunt for professional development. Us, every time I go and play in the symphony, I'm studying under incredible people. They're surrounding me. My professional development is honestly on the bandstand, and it has been forever. And it's where I'm still learning. I'm still surrounding myself with the people that that I can grab things from. You know, trying not to be stagnant, trying to move forward. And you know, most of the time they're educators too. That's the nature
Yeah.
of music, is, you know, whether you're a performance based artist or not, you're still gonna have to teach. That's the way it's gonna be. So that's most of my professional development.
It's a good answer. I think that's true. I think every time I even just go to a concert or go to a performance,
Yep.
I'm learning.
Oh, absolutely. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
It's a professional development's a fun one for us.
So you'll be glad to know I have no more questions.
Oh, I'm doing fine. Yeah.
No, that's it. We charged right through that.
Okay.
I think that's the whole bit. It's beautiful.